The Jets met and defeated Buffalo in their opening game, ending a 6-year hex in Buffalo. Along the watchtower of success, victory is total effort. Total effort by Joe Namath. Injured on a pass to Pete Lammons, Namath's future, indeed the future of the team itself, was in doubt. But only for a precious few minutes. On the very next play, Namath hit Don Maynard for a touchdown. Total effort. Total effort by Jim Turner, who began his quest for another scoring crown with 4 field goals. Total effort by the Jets defense that sacked the quarterback 4 times and dampened O.J.'s debut. Total effort by the offense and Matt Snell, who helped break open a tie game in the last quarter. And total effort by 5 new starters, especially Paul Crane, who iced the game 33-19 with this touchdown interception. It was only the beginning of a long and winding road ahead, but the New York Jets were on their way.
In Denver, the young, untamed Broncos of coach Lou Saban were determined to blast the New York Jets for the 3rd straight year. The young Denver defense is led by middle linebacker John Heward, defensive tackle Dave Costa, and defensive end Rich Tombstone Jackson, number 87. These young men will give anyone a harrowing afternoon, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. The Jets defense is led by Jerry Philbin, John Elliott, and Verlin Biggs. They, too, can spoil a quarterback's composure. Number 13, Steve Tinsey, was forced to watch most of the game from the safety of the sidelines. At the start, Super Bowl heroes Joe Namath and number 41, Matt Snell, made ground eating look simple. Number 31, original Titan Bill Mathis, didn't get far, but just far enough. After 1 quarter, New York led comfortably 13-0. In the 2nd quarter, rookie Steve O'Neill blasted a pro record 98-yard punt, but Floyd Little, number 44, didn't feel that one. This time was different. Behind a block by number 39 fullback Tom Smiley, Little put the Broncos on the scoreboard. Moments later, quarterback Pete Lisk initiated one of the plays of this or any other year. Number 84 is a 2nd-year wide receiver from UCLA named Mike Hafner. That name might be worth remembering. Mike Hafner. Here again is the play which put the Broncos ahead of the world champions. At the half, it was New York 13, Denver 14. In the 3rd quarter, Floyd Little tore free again. Unfortunately for the Broncos, Little was forced to leave with a painful shoulder injury. Leading the league after 2 consecutive 100-plus weeks, Floyd Little seems to be nearing the super status so many have predicted for it. But the Broncos carried on. Pete Lisk, once traded from the Jets by Weeb Ewbank, again threw long. Al Denson left Cornell Gordon grasping the air as the Broncos built their lead to 21-13. But the Jets still had time to come back. On 3rd and long, Namath passed to George Sauer for 24 yards. After surviving a crunching blow by Dave Costa, Namath threw to running back Emerson Boozer for 25 more yards. Namath again passed to a running back, this time to Mr. Everything, Matt Snell, who carried 17 yards to the Denver 3. Namath then handed off to Boozer, who followed Dave Herman to a touchdown. Still needing 2 points to tie, Eubank sent in Babe Pirelli with a play. Carl Cunningham rushed Pirelli, and it was all over. The largest crowd in Colorado sports history had seen their Broncos become champions for a day. Sports' most famous white shoes, padded knees, right arm, and long hair all belong to number 12, super quarterback Joe Namath. Last week, Namath faced a quarterback he has called the best in the AFL, number 21, John Hadle of the San Diego Chargers. Hadle scored first with a bullet to illustrious Lance Allworth, who has never played a pro game in which he did not catch at least one pass. In the second quarter, running back Russ Smith, number 20, mounted the San Diego lead. Next, Hadle began to find wide receiver Gary Garrison, number 27. Garrison was both good enough and lucky enough to catch 10 passes for 188 yards. Hadle, whose painfully sore elbow appeared fully recovered, then threw his second touchdown pass of the day, also to Gary Garrison. The electrifying Chargers had a substantial 24-10 halftime lead over the world champions, thanks mainly to quarterback Hadle's sharp passes to number 27, Gary Garrison, the Chargers' other great wide receiver. In the second half, Namath finally got the Jets moving. Number 32, Emerson Boozer, roared downfield until he found a better place to enjoy the game. Namath found number 83, George Sauer, slanting just beyond the fingertips of number 40, Joe Beauchamp, and the Jets were back in the game. Altogether, Namath hit on 29 passes to tie the club record for completions. In the fourth quarter, Weeb Eubank's superheroes drew within a touchdown as Emerson Boozer followed number 66, guard Randy Rasmussen, to another New York touchdown. But the Chargers kept charging. On a trap play, number 22, Dickie Post, took off up the middle for 59 yards. John Hadle finished the Chargers scoring as he hit his third touchdown pass of the day, his second to Gary Garrison. The Chargers had their first win in 3 tries. The world champion Jets had their second consecutive loss, despite Joe Namath's record 29 completions for 330 yards. It was a great day for quarterbacks, and no one appreciates great quarterbacking more than a great quarterback.
around! Turn around!
Against a forest green New England setting, the Jets next played Boston. Here, a change occurred. Namath had completed a record 29 passes against San Diego, but lost. Now he began to throw less and run more, especially against Boston's three-man line. Three Turner field goals and a strong pass rush were the difference, however, in the 23-14 victory.
For the past few weeks, there has been some question concerning the other New York quarterback's needs, affecting his agility and in turn affecting the team. The Jets defense decided that they couldn't lose if the Bengals never crossed New York's 40-yard line, so they held them to that all but once during the game. As for Joe Namath himself, he displayed the kind of improvised rollout that looked as if he had been practicing it all week. After his pass to Pete Lammons, Namath threw to George Sauer for another 26 yards as the first quarter ended. Six plays later, it was Sauer again, and the Jets led 7-0. Then the real star emerged as Emerson Boozer, number 32, opened up with his greatest rushing barrage ever. His blistering runs added up to a career high of 129 yards. Runs of 38 and 19 yards set up Namath's 1-yard plunge and a 14-0 halftime lead. With only a minute gone in the third quarter, Jet safety Jim Richards blocked a Bengal punt, and linebacker Paul Crane looked briefly to see who was watching, then danced 12 yards to a touchdown while his teammates corroborated the referee's decision. The Bengals avoided a shutout when flashy wide receiver Eric Crabtree dived under a Sam Weiss pass late in the third quarter. But that was the Bengals' only flurry, as Joe's pack is back to match last season's record after 5 games. With 63,841 people rooting for them and one dark, furry omen working against them, the Jets faced the Houston Oilers. Throwing against the best secondary in the AFL, Joe Namath was intercepted twice in the first half. One was alertly picked off by number 33, W.K. Hicks. The other was stolen by Zeke Moore, who streaked 51 fast yards down the sidelines for the Oilers' first touchdown and a 7-3 lead. Unperturbed by unlucky omens or thieving cornerbacks, Namath came back to burn Houston with a picture book touchdown to high-stepping Don Maynard, number 13. With less than 2 minutes to play in the first half, Namath speared Maynard over fallen defender Ken Houston, and the 54-yard touchdown gave the Jets a 17-7 halftime advantage. Houston quarterback Pete Beathard moved the Oilers to their first offensive score on some reckless scrambling and some pinpoint passing. His pass to tight end Alvin Reed to the outside set up a cannon shot to Mac Hike inside at the post as Houston pulled to within 3 points at 17-14. Namath continued to throw into the teeth of the Oilers' stingy defense, and he racked up more than 300 yards in the air. A consistently double-covered Don Maynard accounted for 2/3 of Super Joe's yardage as he caught 7 passes for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. However, the margin of victory was provided by reliable Jim Turner, who booted home 3 field goals to ensure a 26-17 victory and undisputed possession of first place in the AFL's Eastern Division. In the varied New York Jet offense, one major weapon has been the toe of Jim Turner. Like Houston's Roy Gerela, he has been the margin of victory on numerous occasions. Last Sunday, winless Boston tore into the Jets with a barrage of weapons, old and new. Reliable Jim Nance, number 35, bucked for a total of 58 yards. 4 minutes into the game, 2 former Jets teamed up. Quarterback Mike Tolliver lofted one into the diving arms of number 33 Bill Rademacher, and the Patriots were the leaders. When Joe Namath tried to pass for long yardage, he always found a crowd. Boston coach Cleve Rush was flooding his secondary with 8 defenders. 4 Boston linebackers helped to double cover Namath's wide receivers George Sauer and Don Maynard, and except for some middle yardage, Namath found his passing game gone. In the second quarter, Namath tried to hit his tight end, and it was picked off by number 25 John Charles, who turned it into a Boston touchdown. At halftime, the Patriots went into the locker room with a 17-10 lead. Nothing changed in the third period, and with none of his receivers open, Namath called on his gimpy knees. I have those moves for emergencies, he said later, and that was an emergency. The Jet backfield has those moves all the time, and so Namath called upon the likes of Matt Snell, number 41, who wormed and drove for a 12-yard touchdown. Snell ran for a total of 109 yards. From then on, Namath called on his runners. Number 32, Emerson Boozer, twisted for a total of 67 yards. And he pulled the Jets ahead with a 2-yard touchdown. But the difference in the game came on the pendulum reliability of Jim Turner's well-trained kicking leg. 2 field goals, one from 38 yards out, iced the game for New York and sent luckless Boston packing in their own box of tricks.
It took another come-from-behind surge to beat Miami. Riddled for 4 touchdowns by Bob Greasy. The Jets trailed 31-24 in the fourth quarter. But Namath hit Maynard, who spilled into the end zone to tie the game. Minutes later, John Elliott blocked a punt. Jim Turner would again be called on to salvage victory. Turner delivered, and the Jets won 34-31.
Under foreboding skies in Shea Stadium, the hapless Buffalo Bills tried some old tricks to beat the Jets. Like when Bubba Thornton handed off to number 45 Hilton Crawford and he burned up the sideline. It almost worked. He got to midfield. In fact, a lot of things were working. O.J. Simpson, number 32, ran for a total of 70 yards into and around the Jet defense. And before he was hurt in the second quarter, quarterback Dan Darrow threw 8 completions for 157 yards. Haven Moses, number 25, caught 6 for 147. But the Bills couldn't buy a break. They were stopped 3 times within the Jet 20-yard line. The biggest frustration was an O.J. Simpson touchdown over which there was some dispute. Simpson had been detected moving before the snap, and the 6 points were nullified. The Bills had to give up the ball without a score. Joe Namath managed to complete 10 passes in what became a heavy rain. Number 41, Matt Snell, caught 1 and raced 22 yards. Then number 31, Bill Mathis, insisted that he get into the end zone for the only touchdown of the game. But the rain and a tough Buffalo defense bogged down the Jet attack and made Namath's passing game difficult. Once again, number 11, Jim Turner, saved the champs with 3 field goals. One went 47 yards, and the disheartened Bills lost another 16-6.
We have great respect for the Jets. We think they're an excellent football team. We felt that we could do certain things going into the ball game, and it was very obvious that we felt that we could throw the ball and went into the game with a throwing approach.
Quarterback Lynn Dawson carried out Coach Stram's plan to the letter. On the game's second play, he threw to number 89, wide receiver Otis Taylor, who pranced all alone through the New York end zone. After just 44 seconds, the Chiefs were ahead. Dawson and Taylor, both back from the disabled list, showed the high-stepping style that has frightened defensive secondaries for the last 5 years. 3 times, the combination clicked for touchdowns. A 4th touchdown on a tight end screenplay was nullified by a penalty. The largest crowd in AFL history sat stunned in Shea Stadium as Dawson and Taylor repeatedly ripped apart the world champions' pass defense. Hank Stram's Red Hot Chiefs were not the only offensive team on the field. There was a quarterback in green who also fired a few well-placed bullets. And against the Chiefs' league-leading defense, each bullet had to be carefully placed. But for most of the afternoon, the Kansas City defense was too much, even for Joe Namath. Repeatedly, the Chiefs hurried his passes. 3 times, the Chiefs intercepted inside the 10-yard line. Number 18, Emmett Thomas, snagged one in the end zone. All-Pro free safety Johnny Robinson, number 42, added to his league-leading total with his 8th interception of the season. For Kansas City, it was an altogether devastating show. The Chiefs not only ruled the airways, but controlled the ground as well. Number 6, mini-back Warren McVay accounted for more than 100 yards. Powerful Kansas City stopped the Jets' win streak at 6, as the Chiefs rolled impressively to their 7th straight victory, 34-16. The New York Jets were still seeing red from their loss to the Kansas City Chiefs as they welcomed an unsuspecting Greg Cook and the Cincinnati Bengals to an arena called Shea Stadium. From the opening kickoff, the defending world champions gored and stomped the young Bengals as they dished out a painful lesson in defensive football. The Jets used 4 linebackers and rushed through Greg Cook's protective wall as if it were a sieve, dumping him 5 times. The frustrated rookie completed only 9 passes all afternoon, and only his 4th quarter touchdown toss to number 84 Bob Trumpy prevented a shutout. With the Bengal offense stopped in its tracks, the Jets shook the kinks from their own attack and exploded for their highest point total of the season. Joe Namath threw 2 touchdown passes to number 83 George Sauer. Jim Turner booted 4 field goals, and number 15, Babe Pirelli, a relic in a young man's game, unlimbered his 39-year-old arm and hit Pete Lammons for another score. For the first time this season, the Jets put it all together, combining a bruising defense with a devastating offense as they prime for their collision with the powerful Oakland Raiders. Once again, the Flushing Meadows faithful look to Joe Willie Whiteshoes to lead their Jets to victory over the powerful Oakland Raiders. Joe Namath, the AFL's leading passer, pitted his gimpy knees and whiplash arm against the Raiders' Darryl LaMonica, who is just as formidable and has thrown twice as many touchdown passes this season. Both teams have powerful front lines that are equally effective at limiting the run or smashing down the quarterback before he can cut loose the football. In the first quarter, Charlie Smith followed number 70, Jim Harvey, to a 26-yard gain. Then LaMonica connected with Warren Wells, who accelerated past Cornell Gordon at the goal line, and Oakland drew first blood. Namath tied the game on a pass to Bake Turner, who spun free of Nehemiah Wilson's futile tackle and dashed to the Jets' first score. Warren Wells averages an incredible 25 yards every time he catches a pass. And even double coverage by the Jets did not affect his free-form ability to shake loose for huge gains. A bit of artful deception by LaMonica gave the Raiders a 14-7 bulge in the second quarter. Then the gifted Oakland quarterback connected with Wells for his 30th touchdown pass of the season, as the Raiders' lead grew to 21-7. A Namath pass to Bake Turner led to the Jets' last score of the game, as a talented Raider defense shut them out for the final two periods. Oakland traveled up and down Shea Stadium in the second half, but could not manage a touchdown. Twice, George Blanda bailed them out with field goals that ensured a 27-14 victory over the stumbling and unimpressive world champion Jets. As always in the Astrodome, the weather was perfect, but Houston quarterback Bob Davis found himself victimized by the Jets' defense. They stole his passes, they stole his audible signs, and adding insult to injury, they even tried to steal his shirt. It got so that Davis, who had just been activated for this game, found himself wishing he was with that other number 12, watching safely from the sidelines. Although number 10, Don Truel, started for the Oilers, his luck was all bad, and the Jets took immediate advantage of him as an interception and a recovered fumble led to 2 touchdowns. Number 83, George Sauer, caught a pass in the end zone, and with 3.5 minutes gone in the first quarter, the Jets led 14-0. J.W. Namath to number 31, Bill Mathis, made it 21-0, and Houston was in a bind. But when things looked darkest, quarterback Davis got hot on rookie Jerry Levias, number 23, and the Oilers fought back to 21-10 at the half. For most of the second half, the Houston attack fizzled, and the Jets had a 16-point lead with 5 minutes remaining. But the Oilers refused to hang it up, and they began a tremendous comeback. Davis threw to number 38, Rich Johnson, for a touchdown, and a successful two-point conversion brought Houston to within 8. Although the onside kick was no surprise, the bounce it took was, and the Oilers had life. But with time waning, the last-ditch effort failed, and the Jets had won the title in the AFL East. Jet coach Weeb Eubank did not seem overjoyed by the victory. But then would you be smiling if there was a possibility that your next two important games were with the Raiders and the Chiefs? In Miami, the toughest thing Joe Namath had to do all day was leave the field after the game. The Jet veterans found the going much easier on the field with the Dolphins as they tuned up for the playoffs. George Sauer practiced his impossible catches. The secondary went through their interception drill and came up with 4. The defense prepared its repertoire of methods to stop the run. And Namath perfected his technique of finding the end zone. First he hit number 29, Bake Turner, and then number 41, Matt Snell, who found time for a few calisthenics of his own. The Jet regulars were so well tuned that it took just 1 quarter to prove that they were ready. They then watched as the rest of the 40-man squad took its turn. Sturdy young Lee White, number 34, a 240-pound line belter from Weber State College, led the New York rushing attack. Babe Pirelli, the Jets' answer to George Blanda, reactivated his ageless arm, and Bake Turner had his second touchdown. The Jet substitutes controlled the game and left few opportunities for the Dolphins to vent the frustrations of their luckless season. It wasn't until the fourth quarter and a 24-point New York lead that the Dolphins were able to generate any offensive firepower. John Stoffa's pass to Larry Zonka set up a 1-yard touchdown, but it was no more than a feeble gesture. The clock ran out on an ill-fated season for the Miami Dolphins, and the countdown began for New York's showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs. Last Saturday, pro football's playoffs began in cold, blustery Shea Stadium on cold, blustery Long Island, New York. It was a day described by Joe Namath as the worst day for passing since he came to New York. The passing of Namath and of Kansas City's apparently healthy Len Dawson was hampered not only by cold wind and cold hands, but also by aggressive, gang-fighting defensive play. Both teams were forced to rely on a cautious, short pass offense for most of the game. The short pass accounted for several good gains by both teams, but neither team was able to score a touchdown for the first 3 quarters of the game. By throwing to their running backs and their tight ends, Namath and Dawson could set up only 3 field goals by the league's top 2 scorers. And at the end of 3 quarters, the Chiefs led 6-3. As Coach Hank Stram said later, it was like a checker game. Everybody was waiting for that one big move. Early in the 4th quarter, an interference penalty gave the Jets 4 downs to score from the Kansas City 1. On 1st down, Matt Snell gained 1/2 yard. On 2nd down, Bill Mathis was stopped cold for no gain. On 3rd down, all Super Joe had to do was come up with a play that would gain 1/2 yard against the league's leading defense. Namath decided on play action. He faked Mathis into the line and rolled to his right, searching desperately for a receiver or room to run. The results were disastrous. As Namath was led toward the bench, number 11, league-leading scorer Jim Turner went in to tie the game for New York. Len Dawson said later he was inspired by the Chiefs' great defensive stand. On the sidelines, he had worked out the next play with Otis Taylor, number 89, the Chiefs' most dangerous long-range weapon. Taylor's main worry on the play was to properly gauge the effect of the gusting wind on Dawson's pass. Taylor succeeded, and the play became the biggest of the day, 61 yards, all the way to the Jets' 19-yard line. From the viewpoint of the Jets' defensive backfield, we can more fully appreciate one of sports' most devastating sights. A perfectly launched spiral to a receiver who knows what to do after he makes the catch. On the next play, Dawson again decided to fake the run and throw. He faded deep and found Gloucester Richardson behind Cornell Gordon for the game's only touchdown. Such was the shock from this sudden 2-play attack that the stadium scoreboard operator awarded Jan Stenerud 3 points for the successful conversion which followed. In reality, the world champions trailed by only 7 points. And Joe Namath knew that if he couldn't get the Jets at least one touchdown, he would have all winter to think about why. Several times he almost succeeded as he threw pass after pass at the Chiefs' tough young defense. With 1 minute and 50 seconds to play, Joe Namath baited to pass for the last time. The ball sailed straight for Bake Turner in the end zone. But number 40 rookie Jim Marsalis leaped and made his second interception of the day, and the Jets' reign as world champions was near its end. For Jim Marsalis, less than a year out of Tennessee State College, it was a moment never to be forgotten. With only 44 seconds to play, the Chiefs were forced to punt. But another rookie, number 66 linebacker Bob Stein, took care of the final details as he recovered the game's only fumble. Happiness is a rookie bomb squatter who helps his team to climb within 1 game of the Super Bowl. For the Chiefs, only their old friends from Oakland now block the road to New Orleans.